Is this thing on? Welcome back to Movies TV Mad. I'm Mick, your host with the most. Just ask your girlfriends and your wives. Yes, today I have a world exclusive for you, and it is this. Brave and the Bold has been cancelled by DC Studios. I'm pretty confident with this exclusive, and I'm going to explain to you why they've cancelled this movie. James Gunn has again clarified the Matt Reeves crime saga situation after being asked by a fan if it's part of the DCU. James reiterated, saying that it's part of DC Studios but not part of DCU. Now, how long that's the case for, I don't know. But I want to clarify something else. Just because Brave and the Bold has been cancelled, it doesn't mean that Damian Wayne won't be a thing in DCU. James Gunn is a huge fan of Damon Wayne, so I'm going to make a little leap. I don't know this, but I think it could end up being true. Either Damon Wayne will turn up somewhere else, or the Brave and the Bold movie will end up being a Damian Wayne movie. Now, whether or not they can still call it the Brave and the Bold, but the way we thought it was going to be, the way James Gunn explained it, that it was going to be a Batman movie, is not going to happen. And this is why. I said from the very beginning, I was very suspicious that Andres Muschietti, the director of the Flash movie, was attached to that movie a couple of weeks before the Flash movie was released. It was like they were trying to add hype to the Flash movie. You know, in other words, we've got so much confidence in this director, we've got so much confidence in this movie, that you should go and see this movie, because we've just given this director of said movie one of our brand new movies. It always seemed like there was something that it just smelt wrong to me. It smelt wrong. And I said from the beginning, there's no way that Andres Muschietti would actually direct Brave and the Bold. I didn't know at the time that him being attached probably meant that Brave and the Bold was never going to really happen. It's interesting, isn't it? So, listen, DC Studios, David Zaslav at WB Discovery as well, has really liked the popularity of the Penguin. But I think they were heading to this decision of cancelling Brave and the Bold even before Penguin was released. Even when, you look at the box office of the Batman, 750 million. A lot of people are telling you that's bad box office. It's not. People are trying to compare the Batman, Matt Reeves' first chapter of his crime saga, to The Dark Knight. They were saying, well, The Dark Knight made over $1 billion. And then they were trying to crap on the Batman for not making over $1 billion. Well, Batman Begins, Christopher Nolan's first movie in his saga, made under 400 million, or just around 400 million. Now, Batman Begins is one of my favourite Batman films of all time. It's not a flop. That movie had a very, very low budget. So that movie made a profit. That's why it got a sequel. And everyone who saw Batman Begins loved Batman Begins. Let's not get that twisted. But Brave and the Bold will no longer be a thing. So basically, the way I can explain it to you is there's not going to be a brand new DCU Batman. We've done many, many videos about what's going to happen to Batman in DCU. If in fact Robert Pattinson could become the DCU Batman, let's make it absolutely clear. If it was up to James Gunn, Matt Reeves' Batman Robert Pattinson would transfer over to DCU, DC Universe. But, and let's be clear here, Matt Reeves doesn't want that. We know that. We know how much he's passionate about having a grounded universe, and DCU is going to be quite sci-fi, quite fantastical, but he doesn't want to be part of a plastic franchise, a bottled franchise. And I'm not saying that to do what James Gunn's planning a disservice, because I'm quite excited by a lot of his plans. I'm not happy that he cancelled Superman and Lois. I'm not happy about that decision. There's other things I'm not happy about. I'm not happy that he came out before the Penguin came out saying that, he gave the producers of that show notes trying to take some kind of credit. He did also say, to be fair to him, that he allowed Matt and his team, to make that show. So he's not really taking credit for it, but he shouldn't have even mentioned that he made a few suggestions. I didn't like that either. But I do like James Gunn. I do like every single comic book movie he's ever done. I like the fact that he talks to the fans, and I love the fact that he's a DC Comics fan and he understands the universe. He has more knowledge about DC Comics than I do. My love for DC is through the live action, through the movies and the TV. That's where my knowledge is. I don't really read graphic novels. No graphic novels. Marvel, DC. I've read a couple of DC ones because of being in love with the movies and their TV shows. I got into a couple of comics, but I'm not really a reader. I don't read books, even though I'm a writer. It's a bit odd, but I don't really have the concentration. I love watching films. I love television. I have since I was a small boy. And so, yeah, it is my understanding, the way it was sold to us, The Brave and the Bold, of being a Batman movie won't happen. There will not be a brand new DCU Batman. And we've got to understand as well, when James Gunn says, Matt Reeves' crime saga is part of DC Studios, but not part of DCU, we've also got to understand that they're developing a Bane and a Deathstroke movie, and that will be done in conjunction with DC Studios and Matt Reeves' production company as well. So they're teaming up. Matt Reeves is becoming a huge part of DC Studios because Matt Reeves is a genius and he knows Batman a lot better than I do. He understands the comics. He's read many more Batman comics than I have. So he gets it. He absolutely gets it and understands it. So it's important to understand that as well. And so I'm pretty confident that what I'm telling you today is a fact, that Brave and the Bold in its form as a Batman film will not go forward. Now, I was very, very excited about Brave and the Bold, the development of the Batman family, but as I kind of suspect, I think it can still kind of go forward with Damian Wayne leading it. You can still have everyone else. You can have the Bat family, but, I suppose it'll be a bit difficult without their own Batman. So it's going to be very interesting what they do with Damian Wayne, if anything. If what they do with Batgirl and Batwoman, and all of those other characters, because I still think there's a place for them in DCU. Look, James Gunn's been very, very unlucky in a way, and I'm glad Matt Reeves is part of DC. I'm glad the Batman exists. I'm glad the Penguin exists and everything else that he's planning. But James Gunn's unlucky that stuff exists. He inherited that stuff, because I would have really loved to have seen Brave and the Bold. I think it would have been a great movie, a great fun, fantastical Batman, because I think as great as all the grounded Batman movies have been, I think some of us have kind of been a bit worn down by the groundedness. Matt Reeves so obsessed with being a grounded Batman crime saga that he's renamed Oswald Cobblepot Oz Cobb, which I think is ridiculous. I'll never call him Oz Cobb. I'm happy to call him Oz, but it's ridiculous. If you're going to, Oswald Cobblepot isn't a fantastical name. It's a name. Oswald, there's people called Oswald. There's probably no one called Cobblepot, but it's a cool, distinctive name. So I think Matt Reeves has gone a bit far. He's become too paranoid about things that are not grounded and things that are fantastical. So I think the Oz Cobb thing is a step too far. But Matt Reeves is a genius, and I like his stuff, and I loved the Batman. I thought it was a really, really good film. I don't know how it ranks to me compared to other Batman movies. I certainly wouldn't have it at number 1 or number 2 or number 3 in my Batman ranking, but it's a really, really good film, and The Penguin is a great next step. And his crime saga is very, very exciting. There was a school of thought from me many months ago that after the Batman 2, they would, cut ties with Matt Reeves. But considering they're doing this Bane and Deathstroke thing, considering they're doing some different projects with DC Studios, Matt Reeves is. So it looks like the relationship will continue, and I do expect the Batman 2 to be highly and hugely successful. But I'll reiterate what I've been saying. I've always been consistent with this. You can't have two versions of Batman because it's already slightly confusing for fans. What's going to be DCU and what's going to be DC Studios? The element of James saying, well, Matt Reeves' crime saga is part of DC Studios but not part of DCU is confusing to people. And the reason that fans keep on asking him this same question, and people keep on saying, why do people keep on asking this? He's only going to say the same thing because people don't understand why there's been no movement on Brave and the Bold. The other day he said, yes, everything's in development, but it doesn't mean it's ever going to happen. He said, we won't just take crap scripts, his words, not mine, and make movies out of them. And I agree with that, as I said the other day. But you announced the slate, mate, and you made a big mistake announcing that slate. I've spoken about this tirelessly as well. And he said, well, you've got to announce the slate because things get leaked out. No. You don't have to announce a slate just because things are being leaked out. I remember back in the 80s when they were delivering the Who Shot JR episode of Dallas over to the UK, over to the BBC, with secrecy. If that was leaked out, right, would they, have a problem? Would they have to admit that JR gets shot? Of course not. So you never needed to have a slate. The only slate you should have had is on the stuff you definitely were going to make. So you knew you were definitely making Superman. Tick. You knew you were definitely doing Peacemaker 2. Check. You knew you were definitely doing Creature Commandos. Check. You can announce that. You knew you were doing Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. You were confident about the director you were bringing in and the person who was adapting that graphic novel for you. So you can announce those things. What you don't announce is the things you're not sure about. And I said this the other week as well. The same mistake that the DCEU made. The reason the DCEU no longer exists, the reason the DCEU was a disaster and divisive as well, is because they announced this huge slate and barely made anything from that slate. A Krypton movie starring Michael Shannon and Russell Crowe would have been awesome. Ben Affleck's The Batman, which later became Matt Reeves' The Batman. People get disappointed, right? On that slate, you had two Justice League movies directed by Zack Snyder. Then you had to condense it down to one Justice League movie, which became Justice League. And then ultimately, we did have two Justice League movies, Justice League and Zack Snyder's Justice League. What a fucking calamity all of that was. So don't announce things that you think, well, if someone gives me a crap script, we may not make the movie. But surely you've got to be adept enough to be able to say, right, we don't get a good script, we keep on getting them rewritten until they're done properly. But we really want to bring these things out. But it's pretty obvious now the next thing that they're serious about, and it's probably definitely going to happen, and it's going to be Paradise Lost, which is a Wonder Woman prequel. So we know that's coming as well. But all the other stuff, they're doing a Teen Titans, which is going to be written apparently by the same person, the same lady who is adapting Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. So that seems pretty definite as well, because James trusts that writer. He thinks she's really good, he likes her. I know nothing about her, so we'll see when we watch Superman, Woman of Tomorrow how good she is. So at the end of the day, announcing the slate, James, was a huge mistake. And as boring as it is repeating myself, I'll keep on saying it And that's where the mistake is now, because there's a slate there. You know, there's a James Mangold is tapped to do a Swamp Thing movie. He's also tapped to be doing a Star Wars movie. And I still don't have a bloody clue what project he's working on first. We may not see the Swamp Thing movie till 2030. Who knows? Who knows? Something else James Gunn was asked the other day, I don't know if I mentioned it in a previous video, that if there'll be 3 DCU movies a year. He said, absolutely not, that was never the plan. Something I agree with. I remember waiting 3 years for a Star Wars movie, or a Superman movie growing up, or an Indiana Jones movie growing up, or a Bond movie. Now everyone's become spoiled, getting too much too soon, and that's one of many reasons why movies aren't accessible to the public anymore, because you've got this conveyor belt. The MCU became a conveyor belt. In phase 1, we weren't getting, I don't think we were getting 1 a year, were we, at first? Then the more popular they got, the quicker we got them. And then you had like the Disney Plus shows that were coming thick and fast. Once something becomes a conveyor belt, it becomes a problem. When you rush people to make something, it's not going to end up. It's not going to have much quality behind it. I've spoken to VFX people because they were rushed on MCU properties and other Disney properties as well. They didn't come out very good. Same thing with the Star Wars shows as well. But you are in the business of making art, and that art has to be popular and entertaining, but art should take time. Art should never be rushed. So I'm happy that James Gunn understands this. The problem James will have is from the Warner Brothers Discovery end. If he's successful with Superman, they're going to want more and more very quickly. And it's important that Zaslav allows James and his team at DC Studios to work at his pace. Very important indeed. Now, so I've revealed this exclusive about Brave and the Bold being cancelled. How do I feel? I saw a lot of potential in that movie. But I think for the time being, seeing they're going to embrace at DC Studios Matt Reeves' crime saga, as I keep on saying, and it's boring again, but you can't have 2 Batmen. It's stupid. You may as well invest your time in developing other characters that have never been developed before. Something James is very passionate about, to, develop the grade Z and Y kind of characters like the Question, that I love personally. I think when I used to watch the Question on the Justice League animated series, I thought, this is a fascinating character, really is. So we want to see stuff like that as well as still seeing Superman and Batman on the big screen. Now, I did say earlier there won't be a DCU Batman, but it is an interesting situation. Is there a scenario where they may think, well, we won't make Brave and the Bold, but we'll just kind of have Batman show up in other movies? So he said ages ago, that Batman will not be in Superman. So that's very, very interesting. Imagine the meltdown if Robert Pattinson's Batman shows up in James Gunn's Superman movie. We know the Matt Reeves crime saga, big, huge fans. I'm a big fan of it myself, but the really, really big fans of that do not want it passionately as part of DCU. So there will be a huge meltdown if that happened. It is difficult because you've got this new kind of bottled franchise. You do need a Batman in it. So it's a big problem. So you really do have to reassess that. And at this moment in time, I don't see a Batman in the DCU. But is there still potential in Matt Reeves agreeing to his Batman being in DCU? I think, even as improbable as it sounds, I think Matt could be convinced, but it's very, very difficult to, because he wants things his way, very, very grounded. And James Gunn's creating a fantastical universe. So I think this is the kind of thing where they have to think again. For sure, Brave and the Bold isn't going to happen anytime soon. And was, look, they're going to have to tell people this because James Gunn's going to keep on getting that annoying question. Is Robert Pattinson's Batman, is Matt Reeves' crime saga, Batman crime saga, is it part of DCU? Even though James keeps on saying it isn't, fans don't believe him. Because James can be an unreliable narrator. He said there'd be no Superman trailer this year. It looks like we'll get a teaser in Brazil in December. Now, at the moment, we don't know that for sure, but that's how things are looking like, unraveling. And for me, it's brilliant because the sooner they start marketing this film, the better, because this film is so important, not just to the launch of DC Studios cinematically, but to Zaslav and WB, because they're in financial trouble. If Superman is successful, it can turn WB's fortunes around. So it's very, very important that film's successful and they market it properly. And I'm sure they're going to throw everything at that. So very, very important. But as I said, James Gunn had a huge problem when he inherited Matt Reeves' Batman crime saga. It was already there. The first film was going to happen. It happened. It made $750. That's a good figure. The budget wasn't astronomical, although it went up because of COVID delays. But at the end of the day, you can't add that to a film's budget. That's nobody's fault. COVID was a thing. COVID was there. There were delays. Cinemas were shut down. You couldn't do the work properly during COVID with all the kind of rules and regulations around, COVID. It was very, very difficult to make TV and film back then. But they did it. And The Batman, as I've already said, was a really good film. And I really enjoyed that film. And I think that Matt Reeves gets Batman. And considering there's a Batman 2 coming, considering there's more Matt Reeves' Batman crime saga coming, you're going to confuse people. As I say, having two Batman, having two different Batman universes is not going to be accessible to the audience. Why is James Gunn going for a fantastical type of sci-fi DCU? Hollywood used to be a place where dreams came true. They used to be, they used to sell us dreams. Films used to be about wish fulfillment. That's why I fell in love with television and film growing up in the 80s. Because they were selling us these dreams. They keep on telling us it's about seeing ourselves on the screen. I wanted, as an Anglo-Greek Cypriot kid, I still wanted to be Marty McFly. I still wanted to be Elliot befriending E.T. in that movie. I still wanted to be Superman. I still wanted to be all these wonderful fictional characters. Not about seeing yourself, on the screen. It's about wish fulfillment, and it's something that entertainment has lost today, because entertainment has lost its imagination, and it's about something else now, something deeper, something darker, something more hateful. They hate us, especially men. That's the section of the audience they really hate. They push propaganda about all men being bad and all diverse groups, including women, being good. That's not a good thing. When you tell your audience, or a section of your audience, you hate them, you're going to lose that money. And it is a business. It is an entertainment industry, after all, which they seem to be forgetting about. And James Gunn seems to, at the very least, understand that. Being more fantastical, is selling you a dream. And that's what we want to see. When we come out of a DC movie or a Marvel movie or, something like that, a fantasy movie, it's got to uplift us. When I first finished watching the first Guardians movie, I was walking out with that song in my head. Oh, I've got a feeling. Excuse my stupid voice, but you know what I mean? I'd grown 6 feet fucking tall. That's what James Gunn did so well in that movie. That's what he does well in his films. His films is is about finding friendship in the strangest of places. Zack Snyder's DC movies are about mythology. I like both, and I can like both, right? And I think that's what some people don't get. But you can like both. It's cool. But it's my understanding at this moment in time that Brave and the Bold will not be happening. that it's cancelled at DC Studios, and DC Studios will not be confirming this for a while yet. They're definitely, at the very least, going to recycle it as something else. And I think a Damian Wayne-led movie would be a good idea. Imagine him being raised, having a movie seeing him, raised by Ra's al Ghul, and then him, having to face, that world and that life, and then finally becoming, Damian Wayne, Robin on his own. But clearly, he is Batman's son, so it would be slightly difficult to do. But I do think James wants to keep Damian Wayne in the DCU, so he's going to have to find a way around doing that. But it was always a difficult situation. There were two scenarios here. He should never have announced Brave and the Bold. And we have to ask the question, just like before the DCU, when they told us that Henry Cavill was returning as Superman in the DCU, and we had that fabulous post-credit scene in Black Adam, a film I actually enjoyed watching and still enjoy watching. Were they lying to us? Was that a lie? I think it was to uplift the box office of Black Adam. I believe Brave and the Bold and Andres Muschietti involvement was also a lie to uplift the box office of the Flash movie, as I said on the top of the show. And I've been consistent. Watch my old videos. I've said this from the very beginning. I never believed that Andres Muschietti, at the very least, would direct that movie. Now, it looks like we're not getting Brave and the Bold. Now, you save yourself some embarrassment here if you never announced that movie. If you only announced a short slate of Superman, Peacemaker 2, Creature Commando, Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, Paradise Lost, a mini little slate, only announce the stuff that you're definitely doing. But they wanted to announce a huge slate for hype's sake, for, PR sake, for marketing's sake. And I understand that, but it's the same mistake they did with the DCEU. And it's already haunting them. So it's very important that this, I think even Creature Commandos has to be a show that people enjoy. And then word of mouth these days is very important, especially online, especially on social media. So people, have to like that. Now, I am hearing good things about Creature Commandos, and I'm not sure, but I think at the expo today, maybe, and I'm saying today, but this video will go up on Sunday morning, I think maybe they'll show them an episode or so of that series. And I think influencers and everyone else will be able to see that whole series very soon. But I'm hearing good things about Creature Commandos. I always thought it would be a great show. Wasn't too sold when I saw the first trailer, as I've already said. But yeah, I think that will be a good show, and I think that will go down well. I'm not sure how wide-ranging the appeal of that show will be to audiences, but I think it's going to be good. But the most important thing is that the Superman film is loved by more people than hate it. I love Man of Steel, but it was a divisive movie. Not as divisive as BVS, but it was a divisive movie. People hated the fact, not everyone, but a lot of people hated the fact that Superman broke Zod's neck at the end of that movie. All the destruction was divisive for some members of the audience. The way Jonathan Kent dies was also divisive to certain members of the audience, and there was some other things. That can't be a situation with James Gunn's Superman. Critics have got to love it. The audiences have got to embrace it. It's got to be a very popular movie. If it's not, if it's divisive, if it doesn't make the money it needs to make, then the DCU is dead before it started. Now, again, I've been very consistent with this. It's not rocket science. You don't need to know the industry to get that. The DC Universe fandom, DC fandom has been divided for a very long time. The events of the DCEU helped divide fans. And even with the announcement of crypto, announcement of a cute dog, there was even some divisive conversations there. And it's not controversial. Crypto's been part of Superman's world and the DC comic books for many, many years now, before we were even born. So it's not controversial. But to the Snyder fans who like the Dark Universe that Zack gave them. They think, oh, a cute dog, Oh no, we don't want to see that. Well, I'm sorry, guys. You had your Dark Universe. Now we're going to try going back to more lighter, more fantastical DC. And that's okay because there's so many different DC fans out there who want different things. Now it's the turn of people who want, a bright, inspiring DC universe. And that's exactly what James Gunn's going to give us.